You have tried the probiotics, the expensive ones with 50 billion CFUs and 12 different strains. You have taken them religiously, morning after morning, for weeks and sometimes months, and your gut is still a mess. The bloating persists. The gas appears out of nowhere. Foods that never bothered you before now leave you uncomfortable for hours. You may have even tried different brands, thinking the first one was wrong, or added fermented foods, or cut gluten, or eliminated dairy. And still, something in your gut refuses to cooperate. If this sounds familiar, the problem is not that you have been choosing the wrong probiotic. The problem is that probiotics after 45 are often addressing the wrong part of the equation entirely. And the thing that may actually fix what is broken is not a capsule with billions of bacteria. It is a single common spice that has been sitting in your kitchen for years. To understand why probiotics stop working the way you expect them to after 45, you need to understand what changes inside the gut during this phase. The gut is not a simple tube. It is a densely populated ecosystem containing trillions of microorganisms, collectively called the gut microbiome. Among these organisms are specific groups of bacteria that metabolize estrogen, a collection known as the estrobolome. When estrogen levels are stable, the estrobolome functions predictably. It helps regulate how much estrogen stays active in the body and how much gets eliminated. But when estrogen begins to fluctuate and decline, which typically starts in the early to mid-40s, the composition of the gut microbiome shifts. Certain beneficial bacteria lose their numbers, while less desirable bacteria, particularly those that thrive in inflammatory environments, begin to expand. The diversity of the microbiome narrows, and with it, the gut's ability to manage inflammation, absorb nutrients, and maintain the integrity of its own lining declines. This is where the problem with standard probiotics becomes clear. Most commercial probiotics contain strains of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, which are beneficial in general terms. But dropping billions of these bacteria into a gut environment that has become hostile, inflamed, and overgrown with problematic organisms is like planting seeds in soil that has not been prepared. The seeds cannot take root because the conditions are wrong. The beneficial bacteria pass through without establishing themselves, which is why so many women take probiotics and feel no meaningful difference. The gut environment itself needs to change before any probiotic has a chance of working. The gut lining is central to this story. The intestinal wall is only one cell thick in most places, held together by structures called tight junctions. These junctions act like gates, allowing nutrients through while blocking undigested food particles, toxins, and bacteria from entering the bloodstream. When the gut lining is inflamed, which it often is after years of hormonal fluctuation, stress, and dietary irritation, these tight junctions loosen. Small gaps form between the cells. Particles that should stay inside the gut begin to leak through into the bloodstream, triggering immune responses that manifest as bloating, food sensitivities, fatigue, brain fog, skin issues, and a general feeling of systemic inflammation. This condition, known as increased intestinal permeability, is not a dramatic diagnosis. It is a gradual weakening that develops quietly and affects virtually every system in the body. Now here is where the spice enters the picture. Ginger, specifically its active compounds, gingerol and shogal, acts on the gut in a way that no probiotic can. It works on the environment rather than the population. Gingerol is a potent anti-inflammatory compound that directly reduces the production of inflammatory cytokines in the gut lining. It calms the tissue, reduces the swelling that loosens tight junctions, and creates conditions in which the intestinal barrier can begin to repair itself. Shogal, which is produced when ginger is dried or cooked, has an even stronger anti-inflammatory effect and has been shown in laboratory studies to inhibit the NF-κB pathway, one of the master switches for inflammation throughout the body. By quieting this pathway in the gut, ginger does something that probiotics cannot. It changes the terrain. But ginger does more than reduce inflammation. It has a direct and well-documented effect on gut motility, the coordinated muscular contractions that move food through the digestive tract. After 45, gut motility frequently slows down. This is partly hormonal, since progesterone has a relaxing effect on smooth muscle, and its fluctuation can disrupt the regular pace of digestion. Slower motility means food sits in the stomach and small intestine longer than it should, fermenting and producing the gas and bloating that become daily companions. Ginger accelerates gastric emptying by up to 25%, meaning food moves through the stomach faster and reaches the small intestine in a more timely manner. This alone can dramatically reduce post-meal bloating. There's also an antimicrobial dimension. The gut problems that develop during this phase are not always about missing good bacteria. Sometimes they are about an overgrowth of problematic organisms, particularly in the small intestine, where bacteria are supposed to be present only in small numbers. When bacteria from the colon migrate upward into the small intestine and begin fermenting food there, the result is a condition known as small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which produces excessive gas, bloating, and discomfort. especially after meals containing carbohydrates and fiber. Ginger's natural antimicrobial properties help keep bacterial populations in the small intestine in check without destroying the beneficial bacteria in the colon. This selective action is something that pharmaceutical antibiotics cannot achieve, and that probiotics do not even attempt. So how do you use ginger effectively? The form matters. Fresh ginger root is the most potent source of gingerol. Dried ginger powder contains more shogol. Using both provides the broadest spectrum of benefits. The simplest and most effective daily practice is ginger tea made from fresh root. Take a piece of fresh ginger about the size of your thumb, slice it thinly or grate it, and steep it in hot water for 10 to 15 minutes. Drink this 15 to 20 minutes before your largest meal of the day. The warmth and the gingerol prime the digestive system, accelerate gastric emptying, and reduce the inflammatory environment before food even arrives. Most women notice a reduction in post-meal bloating within the first 3 to 5 days of doing this consistently. If fresh ginger is not available, pre-sliced frozen ginger works nearly as well and can be kept on hand indefinitely. The key is using real ginger root, not ginger-flavored tea bags, which contain only trace amounts of the active compounds and will not produce the same effect. There's another benefit of ginger that connects specifically to the hormonal component of gut disruption. Ginger has been shown to modulate the enzyme beta-glucuronidase, which plays a role in estrogen recirculation. In a healthy gut, used estrogen is tagged by the liver for elimination and sent to the intestines for excretion. But when certain bacteria produce excess beta-glucuronidase, they strip the tag off the estrogen, allowing it to be reabsorbed into the bloodstream instead of eliminated. This recirculated estrogen contributes to estrogen excess, which drives symptoms like bloating, breast tenderness, and mood instability. By reducing inflammation and keeping beta-glucuronidase activity in check, ginger supports the gut's ability to properly clear estrogen from the body, addressing both the digestive and hormonal dimensions of the problem simultaneously. For more sustained anti-inflammatory effect, adding half a teaspoon of dried ginger powder to food throughout the day provides a steady supply of shogol. Sprinkle it into oatmeal, blend it into smoothies, stir it into soups, or mix it into salad dressings. The taste is warm and slightly spicy, but not overwhelming at this dose. If you prefer a supplement, standardized ginger extract capsules at 250 to 500 milligrams taken twice daily with meals provide a measured and consistent dose. The effects build over time, but the early results are often surprisingly fast. Within the first week, the most common change women report is less bloating after meals and fewer episodes of unexplained gas. By the second week, digestion feels smoother and more predictable. By the third and fourth week, many notice that foods they had been avoiding because they caused discomfort are now tolerable again. This is not because the food changed. It is because the gut environment changed. The inflammation calmed down, the motility improved, the intestinal barrier began to tighten, and the conditions that made every meal feel like a gamble slowly shifted back towards stability. Once the gut environment has improved, usually after 4 to 6 weeks of consistent ginger use, that is the point when a probiotic can actually be effective. The soil has been prepared. The inflammation has been reduced. The tight junctions have begun to heal. Now, beneficial bacteria introduced through a probiotic supplement or through fermented foods like plain kefir, sauerkraut, or kimchi have a fighting chance of establishing themselves. The sequence matters. Calm the environment first, then repopulate it. Most women do it in reverse and wonder why the probiotics never worked. When reintroducing probiotics after the gut preparation phase, choosing a formula with Lactobacillus rhamnosus and Bifidobacterium, Longum, specifically, has the strongest evidence for reestablishing a healthy microbiome in women going through hormonal transitions. These strains have been shown to support the estrobolome, the specific group of bacteria responsible for healthy estrogen metabolism. A dose of 10 to 20 billion CFUs daily, taken with food, is sufficient. Higher counts are not necessarily better and can actually cause bloating if introduced into a gut that is still healing. Start with a lower dose for the first week and increase gradually. Your gut did not turn against you for no reason. The hormonal shift that changed your sleep, your weight, and your energy also changed the environment inside your digestive tract. The bacteria shifted, the lining weakened, the inflammation built up, and every capsule of probiotics you swallowed passed through a gut that was too hostile to let them do their job. The fix was never about adding more bacteria. It was about creating the conditions where your gut could heal itself. And it started with something that has been in your spice rack all along, waiting to do what no expensive capsule could.